This week on The Aviators, Curtis heads to Penyan Aero as we look at why aircraft engines are so reliable.
They're severely over-engineered. There's many redundant systems on these aircraft engines.
Raylene visits the Oshawa Municipal Airport, the world's most female-friendly airport. And I look at buying a used aircraft and all of the things that you can do to make it your own. Previously, Sarah looked at the differences between single and twin-engine aircraft. A large part of her multi-engine training involved learning how to fly a twin when one engine fails. But most of the general aviation aircraft out there are single-engine aircraft. And unlike twins, if that one engine fails, all of your forward thrust is gone. Any way you look at it, an engine failure on a twin or a single-engine aircraft is not a good thing. You're not going to find yourself simply sitting in the middle of the street when your aircraft's engine fails. Because of this, the engines in factory-certified aircraft are all built to be extremely reliable with built-in redundancies and requirements for the engine to be overhauled after a certain number of hours. One shop that does overhauls is Penyan Aero, a family-run business that goes back 3 generations. Current company president Bill Middlebrook is the grandson of Harold Middlebrook, who started Penyan in 1945.
Bill, what makes an aircraft engine so reliable?
Well, you know, Curtis, these engines have been around for decades now. They're severely over-engineered. There's many redundant systems on these aircraft engines to help keep the pilots and the passengers safe.
When it comes to piston aircraft engines, there are 2 main manufacturers that general aviation aircraft will use, Continental and Lycoming. These 2 companies have produced the majority of the aircraft engines used in general aviation aircraft since the 1950s. Most of their engines were designed in the 50s and 60s and are now tried and true. Penyan performs overhauls on both manufacturers' engines and have people from all over the world ship engines to their New York facility.
So here we are in the warehouse, and this is basically where all our engines come in when they first arrive here, and this is also where all the engines are shipped out. When the engines first arrive here, every engine goes through a detailed check-in. We open up the crate, see what we've got, take pictures, make a list, copy down everything from part numbers, serial numbers, engine models, pieces and parts, extra parts that might have come in with the engine. From there, the engines go to the teardown.
That sounds like the fun part where you get to take it apart and see what's inside.
Tear it all apart, that's right.
Let's go have a look.
All right.
All aircraft engines have what's called a TBO, or time before overhaul. This is an hour count on when the aircraft engine will need to be overhauled. For Lycoming and Continental engines, this is usually between 1,400 and 2,400 hours. Once an engine hits this time, it may need to go to a facility like Penyan, where they will disassemble, inspect, clean, and replace various parts of the engine.
So Bill, in the disassembly shop, we can actually get a good look at one of the engines that comes in. What type of engine is this?
This is a 0360 F1A6 found in one of your typical 170, 172 Cessnas. And this engine is a 360 cubic inch engine, makes 180 horsepower. You can see here things like this is a carburetor, similar to what you might find on an automotive engine. This is the ignition system here. These are called magnetos. There's actually 2 magnetos on this engine, which allows for some redundancy in case there's ever a problem with the ignition system. These are the cylinders. You can see here, this is the main crankcase area, push rod tubes, valve covers. Realistically, a very, very simple, well-designed engine.
The engines are internal combustion engines and work on the same basic theory as the ones you'd find in a car. However, there's a number of differences between a piston engine in an aircraft and a piston engine in an automobile.
Now, one of the differences that I see is that the cylinders here, as opposed to the cylinders in our car, have fins wrapped around them.
That's a good point. These engines are all air-cooled. The engines that we find in our cars today are water-cooled. They have a radiator, they have a water pump. The air-cooled engines are much lighter. And of course, when you're in an airplane, you're up in the air, you're flying fast. There's a lot of air moving over this engine, and it's a more efficient way to keep the engine cool.
And one of the other things, you mentioned that this has a magneto on it. If you're driving along in your car and you take the battery out, the engine stops. What happens if you take the battery out of an airplane?
Nothing. It continues to operate. That's one of the neat things about the magnetos. These are basically self-contained sparking apparatus. They are continuously sending spark to the spark plugs as long as the engine's turning over.
So the engine actually makes its own energy to generate the spark?
Makes its own energy.
And I also noticed that we can't see with a camera on both sides, but it looks like there's more than one spark plug per cylinder. What's that about?
That's right. That's right. These engines actually have 2 spark plugs per cylinder. Again, back to the safety, back to the redundancy. If one of these magnetos happens to fail, there's still another magneto. The engine will continue to operate.
When an engine is overhauled, some of the parts will be replaced and some of the parts will be reused. The engine manufacturers require some parts be replaced during overhaul, while others will be inspected and replaced only if necessary.
As an example of a part that might be reused, the crankcase, the crankshaft, internal parts like connecting rods. Sometimes the cylinders are overhauled and can be reused, things like that.
So Bill, how do you get 2,000 hours of oil and grime off of these engine parts?
Well, that's an interesting process that we've developed. We use a machine which is called a MART machine, and it's actually like a giant dishwasher. It uses a 70 horsepower electric motor, high pressure hot water, and an environmentally friendly dish soap, and it just washes it just like it would wash your dishes at home in a dishwasher.
After the parts are inspected, cleaned, and replaced if necessary, the engine is reassembled. Parts that are not replaced may also be remachined if the shape has shifted over time. Once reassembled, the engines are then put through a series of tests to ensure that they're operating according to specs. For some of these tests, Pen Yan uses a complex rig called a dynamometer.
So Bill, this is like a full-on dynamometer, like you might see somebody building a race car engine and testing a race car engine. And do all aircraft engines get tested in a dynamometer before they get shipped to the customers?
Well, they do if they're here at Pen Yan Aero. We've invested a lot of time and money and effort into developing what we feel is one of the best engine testing procedures anywhere.
And what kind of things do you test in the dynamometer?
Well, basically, we're looking for everything. This is a computerized system that collects data. Not only, as everybody knows, a dynamometer reads horsepower and torque readings, but in addition, we're taking data on everything from cylinder head temperatures to exhaust gas temperatures, crankcase pressures, fuel flows, you name it, we're watching it.
Tons of instrumentation. So what do you actually do with that information you get back from the engine?
Well, a lot of it is based off of experience, but again, a lot of it goes back to the overhaul manual. And what we can do is we can compare that data to what we know to be the industry standard and make sure that we're putting out the perfect engine.
So what the customer knows is that their engine's been thoroughly tested and it's been set up and measured in all sorts of different parameters to make sure it's inspect to run on their airplane.
Precisely.
Now, all of this testing and maintenance is designed to ensure that an aircraft's engine is going to be reliable, whether you're flying by yourself or with friends and family on board. Bill knows this all too well, as he's also a pilot and a father.
There is absolutely no question whatsoever that being a pilot in the engine overhaul business is a huge benefit, not only to me to service the customer, but from the customer's aspect as well. I know what they need, I know when they need it, and I know how to make the engine perform.
Today, Bill flies a Piper Super Cub, which he's had for as long as he's been a pilot.
I first started with this airplane when I was about 15 years old. My father made the offer to me, I think more to keep me out of trouble when I was in high school than anything else. But he offered to give me the opportunity to learn how to fly. And in doing so, he went and bought this Super Cub, and I soloed in the airplane and flew in it for most of the summer. And then in the fall, we took the airplane completely apart, completely restored it, and a year later we flew the airplane. And in 1989, I got in the airplane, went and took my private pilot's test, got my pilot's license the same day I graduated high school. And then the next morning, my father and I got in the airplane and we flew to Alaska.
Just as his father introduced him to aviation, Bill is now introducing his son to aviation.
He just loves to fly. He's like I was when I was his age. Any opportunity that we have to go flying, he's always tugging on my shirt tail, saying, "Dad, it's a nice day. We should be flying today." And he's right.
With now 4 generations of aviators, the Middlebrook family is clearly very deeply rooted in aviation and in aviation maintenance.
Well, you know, I have worked here ever since I can ever remember. I can remember my father picking me up and setting me on a stool so that I could push rocker arm bushings out of rocker arms, sweeping the floor. I worked here summers and after schools, and it's always been part of our family.
And with a potential 4th generation owning Pena and Aero, it's very likely things will be this way for years to come. Although it's almost been 110 years since the Wright brothers first flew at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, it took several years for aviation to spread to the rest of the globe and to all aspects of modern life. And so with every passing year, another centennial aviation celebration is upon us. 2011 marked 100 years of naval aviation, and 2010 marked 100 years of licensed female pilots. To mark this occasion, a contest was held which led to Oshawa Municipal Airport being named the most female-friendly airport in the world.
And I am here with Leslie Page, who spearheaded the initiative at the winning airport, Oshawa, Ontario. Leslie, tell me how this started.
Well, I noticed an article on one of the aviation newsletters that talked about the centennial of women licensed pilots coming up in March of 2010. And that intrigued me, so I went on to the website of the creator of the initiative, Mcleod, who is a pilot, a female pilot from British Columbia. And I noticed on the website that only 6% of pilots are women. And I was appalled by that. I had no idea. I mean, it's crazy. 50% of car drivers are women. Why are only 6% of pilots women? So I was reading more about it, and I noticed that there were some contests that were created. One of them was for the most female pilot-friendly airport in the world. I started flying women, introducing non-pilot women and girls to flights in my airplane. And I also encouraged other pilots at our airport. So there were some other female pilots, and some of the male pilots also were very supportive. And we just kept flying all year long. And then at close to the end of the year, I noticed that we were actually a number 2 spot. There was only one airport that had flown more women and girls than we had. So I thought, okay, we're going to kick this off.
So it's a friendly competition going on.
It was, yes.
So the weekend before Christmas, Leslie and several other volunteers put on an event to take as many girls and women flying as possible.
We flew 118 women that day. It was a cold, blustery day, but they just had a fantastic time.
That's amazing. So you ended up winning.
We did.
Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What were the numbers? Tell me.
We flew 475 non-pilot women and girls between March and the end of December of 2010.
Taking part were women and girls of all ages. The one thing they all had in common was that this was their first time in a small aircraft, including this woman and her 2 daughters.
Steve, are you taking these lovely ladies up? Absolutely. Awesome. Here are your passengers, your future pilots to take with you.
Future pilots. We'll come around the other side. Right there for you. All right, ladies, are we all ready to go? Excellent.
This is a very special airplane. This airplane can land on the water, of course. That's why it's carrying those funny big shoes underneath it, eh? We call those pontoons. It's like a pontoon boat, right? And it would take about 15 minutes to get to your cottage. That's about all. That's all. Yeah? Wow. That's pretty quick, eh?
And in some of the cases, the lucky girls even had a chance to get a feel for the controls.
What do you think, Abby? Is your sister a good pilot so far?
I don't know.
You don't know? Well, we're up here in the air, right? And we're right side up, so that's probably a pretty good sign.
Throughout the day, there were smiling faces returning to the airport as folks experienced their first glimpse of aviation.
He drove over Curtis, where I live, and I saw my house and my school.
Paige, you gonna help me land?
Okay.
All right, it's the same. We're just gonna be going down a little closer to the ground, so you hold the control. Excellent.
Wind 31011, clear to land runway 30.
Echo Mike, clear to land 30, thanks. Well, there we go. How was that?
Good.
That was good?
That was good.
How about you, Abby? Was that awesome?
Yeah.
That was good, eh? We get 3 cheers? Hip, hip, hooray!
And of course, it wasn't just girls who experienced flying for the first time. Brenda had a chance to fly with Leslie and found that the flight had extra special meaning.
Well, it wasn't something I planned to do. I just happened to see it on the internet, and I gave Leslie a call and just explained to her that my mom had died recently and I was looking for a new challenge because my mom had just been so courageous in her last year of life. And I thought, well, this is a challenge for me to go up somewhere in the air. That kind of makes you nervous to do. And also at the same time, it was like being closer to heaven to my mom. And so I thought, well, I'd give it a try. And she was just so welcoming and understanding of the situation.
While the event was a huge success for Oshawa, the real benefits may not be felt for several years when some of the future pilots who receive their first flight get out into the pilot pool. And for girls or women out there who may be thinking about going out for their first flight, Leslie has some advice.
So what would you tell somebody who's sitting there wondering whether or not they should come out to fly? Maybe I should. I don't know if I can do it. I'm a girl. What would you say?
You can do it. Why not? I'm a girl. I did it. And I'm not even very technical or mechanical. It is challenging, but it's not difficult. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
Previously, Curtis looked at several different types of aircraft available to a potential aircraft owner. Most of them were brand new, and while a brand new factory aircraft may be ideal, for a lot of pilots that may not be the most economical choice. If you're a new pilot or thinking about becoming a pilot, your first aircraft is probably going to be used.
You know, the very day I got my license, I couldn't wait to explore the possibility of owning an aircraft. But I didn't think the time was going to come for possibly years and years, because I thought affordability was really the biggest problem. First and foremost, to me, I thought the greatest barrier would be insurance. So that was the first phone call I made, no kidding, the day I got my license. And I was shocked to find out, with 66 hours under my belt, 1 day as a licensed pilot, that surprisingly for the aircraft that I was considering looking at, the insurance carried quite similar to what I was paying on my car. Well, that convinced me that perhaps ownership isn't impossible.
As far as monthly payment goes, a typical single-engine used aircraft can be very similar to a mid-range sports car. The actual financing process can be a little closer to that of a house, and the cost of an aircraft can be amortized over a number of years. How much these numbers are will all depend on what type of aircraft you go with, which is entirely dependent on what you plan to do with your aircraft.
Probably the most important thing when selecting the airplane for you is to determine what is the mission you're trying to fulfill. When I spoke to my aircraft broker, the person who helped me locate an aircraft, because of course with no experience, I didn't know how to kick the tires and determine even what I was looking at, so I really needed some support in helping me get steered in the right direction. But the thing that you have to know is, what is the mission of the aircraft? Well, I kept saying 4 guys and golf bags. That was a good mission for me. So really, a Piper Warrior, or the equivalent on the Cessna side, say a Cessna 172, it really doesn't quite fulfill the mission. I mean, they are 4-seat aircraft, but they don't really have the ability to hold 4 big burly guys, golf clubs, and have any fuel in the tanks.
With aircraft, there are several determining factors as far as the price goes. Payload and range are the big factors to consider as far as establishing the different classes or categories for pricing. And as we've mentioned previously, adding a second engine or going with a turboprop could affect pricing significantly. When I upgraded to my current aircraft, however, there were a number of improvements I enjoyed over my previous aircraft.
The Cessna 210. It had the retractable gear I was looking for, which alone picked me up 30 knots of speed. It had the turbocharged engine I was looking for, which allowed me to get 10,000 feet higher than I was used to in the 206. And this particular 210 just happened to be pressurized. That's an added bonus, because normally above 10,500 feet for any length of time, and everyone on board needs to wear oxygen. But in a pressurized aircraft, we don't have to wear oxygen until over 21,000 feet.
But when you buy used, sometimes you'll find yourself making compromises. And with the 210, the color was one of them. But this is one of the many things that you can customize to make an aircraft your own. I had a chance to check out a number of different upgrades at AOPA Summit this past year. And one of the first things I had a look at were micro vortex generator or VG kits.
The vortex generators, they're these little guys. There's small ones and larger ones. When the airflow hits the side of the blade, hops over to fill the low pressure area and spins the air. That keeps it attached longer at higher angles of attack, and the most important thing they do is provide improved control response at slow speeds.
If any of that's unclear, these tiny little fins spread out along the leading edge of the wing, basically decreasing the chances of stalling at low speed, and in turn giving better performance and control during takeoff and landing. They may look like simple aluminum fins, and really they are. But modifications like this to an aircraft require an STC or Supplemental Type Certificate. This ensures that the aircraft is still considered airworthy and safe to fly. There are lots of things that you can do with your aircraft that will help performance. One small thing I did was add GAMI injectors, which are tuned fuel injectors.
And then there's improvements that have to do with safety. These are called pulse lights, and they make you much more visible. And because they're high-intensity discharge lights, they actually use significantly less power than would a conventional bulb. I actually fly leaving my pulse lights on always. It really increases visibility, and it makes you a lot safer in the sky.
There are also different things that you can do to increase comfort as a pilot. For instance, one of the little things the 210 was missing were transparent sun visors.
You can literally see through these visors with the sun right in your face. To give you an idea of how that works, just pick this up and look at this overhead light right now.
You know, that's a lot like the sun. I mean, you can block that completely with a card or with a conventional visor, but then you can't see through it, obviously. And with this, I can look directly at that light and everything around it. And, I mean, it's possible with this.
Now, one of the biggest areas that you can upgrade in a used aircraft is the instrument panel. The great thing about this is that you can do things in small increments, changing out or upgrading instruments one by one. Or you can take a big plunge and change out the entire steam or vacuum gauge system for an all-glass panel, which is exactly what's going to happen to the 210. But you'll have to look out for that in the future.
Now, there's still a lot of improvements I'd like to do to the airplane, but even with these little modifications that I've done to start, I'm now feeling that the airplane is truly mine. So really, all that's left to do is let's go flying.
For more information on today's segments, visit www.theaviators.tv. From our official home at the Whitman Regional Airport in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, we'll see you next time on The Aviators.